this session, finding that love. Finding that full, constant love source. How wonderful. Doesn't that sound good? It is the desire of all of our hearts, isn't it? The world is searching for love everywhere. And yes, we all yearn for complete, not partial love. And sometimes we think we have found that in another person. We think we've found the one. Sometimes we're fortunate to have more than one person we are taking from and finding love from. And if they are taking from God, if they were taking completely from God, we'd feel a godly love. But for how long can they give us this love? What is your experience? Have you ever been disappointed with anyone in your life? Have you ever felt let down? Sadly, it doesn't last long and we get disappointed. We not only need a love that is full, we also need it constantly. This is not because we are selfish. No, we need this love constantly out of no choice because we were made to live from love. It is like air. We need it constantly or we die. We need our love source to be selfless. We need a source, a person who has no needs for themselves and does not want nor expect anything in return for himself. We need one person who gives love with no strings attached. Have you ever found a person like that? Jesus, amen. So apart from Jesus in your life, have you ever found anyone? It is not a give and take love that we need. I'll give you something if you give me something back. Isn't that how human love works? No, this source has to be willing to give it away because it wants to. He has to give voluntarily, not out of obligation. He must love to give. We humans all have a need for this love, but we need to find a source that is trustworthy and that will never fail us. You see, in order to exercise love, we need to trust. We need to trust in order to function. That is how God made us. How can we choose a trustworthy source? Do we have the capacity to evaluate and then choose? What people are not aware of is our own unconscious drivenness to cling to our source like children cling to their mothers. We trust the human right away because we can't bear a moment without a source. And that is true. We trust automatically. We take automatically from other people, and it's entirely subconscious. When you, for example, meet somebody who you don't even know and they're rude to you, you will have an automatic reaction, won't you? It'll almost invariably be a negative reaction to that person being rude to you because you trusted, you expected that that person was going to be polite. That is what we expect, that people will treat us well. Jeremiah 17 verse 5 tells us that man's heart has departed from the Lord. And our heart is in our subconscious. So we all in our deception, in our own heart, have something that drives us to trust man and not God. And if that deception is not seen, if we never recognize it, our hearts will always automatically, unconsciously, and willingly drive us to trust another human because we are desperate for love. Just as we must have air, we must have love. For example, whenever anyone chooses a marriage partner, who do we usually put our trust in? Do we ask God to supply us with a marriage partner? Or do we automatically put our trust in our own selves and then in the person that we choose? Subconsciously, we trust our partner to meet our needs for love, for faithfulness, for kindness and acceptance. And what is the result? It's disappointment. We get disappointed because we did not trust God to meet all of those needs. And we almost certainly didn't trust God to choose the marriage partner for us. Why? Because our heart deceives us. And yet the truth is that relationships are the place where the best things of life can come from, because it is here in relationship where love is exercised. Now, love is a dynamic power for life when it is exercised in relationships. And life, we find, is best in relationships. I mean, there's not many of us that would choose to live on an island all by ourselves. And the best things in life come when love is exercised. The exercise of love is take to give. But how can we exercise love with no trust? Can we do it? No. I must trust before I take. We have to have an anchor. But how can I exercise love if my anchor of love goes missing? How can we exercise love if we do not know who to trust? You can't, because you must anchor first before taking. And people let us down. We let people down also. And if bound by trust to a person who lets us down, and then to another person, and then to the next person, the place of binding keeps moving. My source keeps moving away from me, and I keep falling off. Is this constant binding and falling off experience good for us? What do you think? Is it good for us? Does it make us feel good? It doesn't make us feel good, but maybe it is good for us. Could it lead us to stop trusting altogether? Is it even possible to stop trusting? Can we stop trusting? Well, let's think about the law. The law is take to give, and there's only one way to take, and that is through trust. So you can never not trust, because all things, remember, function by law. So we will automatically trust, if not to God, then to others. And it's subconscious. So we might have a defense mechanism that says we're not going to be around people who don't treat us nicely, but that's because our trust is in them, that we can't bear to be around them when they don't treat us nicely. So you see that we deceive ourselves, and we come up with some quite complex explanations to why we do things, but the law is straightforward. Take to give, and there is only one way to take, and that is by trust. No, it is not possible. We are made to trust, just like we are made to breathe. And if we stop trusting, we will die, because trust is how we function to live. So can any good come out of repeated disappointments? What was that? Yes, in fact, God intends that we should be disappointed with people. How can disappointment after disappointment be good? How can suffering be good for us? How can repeated loss be any good? Or when people disappoint us over and over again, this can slow down our drive to trust people and lead us to examine ourselves and consider our ways. But best of all, disappointments can be used by God to lead us to consider trusting Him. And in fact, people often ask that question, why does God allow suffering? If there were any other way to reach the human heart and to show our deception, then God would use it. But it is only when we no longer trust others that we are willing to trust Him. We must see our deception or we would be eternally lost. He must help us to see the consequences of our deceived heart. So it is in His mercy and His goodness that He allows us into circumstances where we feel disappointed, where we feel broken, because that is the way that we turn to Him. So we must learn how we can make God our source. Now, can we trust in God and people at the same time? No. No, you cannot trust God and people at the same time. For the same reason that it is impossible to graft a branch to two different vines. It will not work. Is it possible to just trust yourself? No, it is not possible to anchor to yourself. You always anchor to your love source. And I think we've already been shown that we are not a source of love. Okay, I think we might have a slide here. What is trust? Trust is always an action that you do outside of yourself for the purpose of anchoring, fixing and securing yourself from drifting away from the source. We must trust first. It always comes first before we can take what we need. And the truth is, we are born not trusting God. We are born separated from God, and we automatically bind first to our mothers and then every other person that we come in contact with, automatically and unconsciously. And we will believe the words of the one whom we trust. So what is faith? Because after trust comes faith. So faith is how we take the information from outside and bring it inside. And we only take from the one whom we trust. So if we trust in God, we have faith in His words. So we take from whom we are anchored to. You take from your source. So faith always comes second. But it comes immediately after trust. So it's not something that you're conscious of, just like you unconsciously trust people, you unconsciously believe what they say. So if they say something nasty to you, why do you feel hurt? Because you believe what they say. However, trust and faith we do unconsciously, so you cannot know when you have exercised trust and faith. Only when people disappoint you can you become aware. Only when disappointed can we realize that we are bound in trust to the wrong person, to the wrong source. So disappointments are beneficial. God intends that we become disappointed so that we can realize our wrong subconscious actions of trust and faith. Why or how do we get so mixed up? Well, our hearts deceive us. They think that we know in whom to trust. But your heart is driven to trust people always and not God. Now, how about health? Do we know if relationships impact our health? Definitely yes. Even medicine knows about psychosomatic illnesses, but medicine cannot explain the mechanism of how this happens. You can do your own research. If you take a person's medical history and put it on a timetable, place all physical complaints or surgeries, pregnancies, abortions, accidents on the timetable. Then take a relationship and thought history. Ask about relationship issues with mother, father, siblings, spouse, plus employment and traumas, and you will see for yourself a direct relationship with certain kinds of thinking in regards to specific relationships and the direct impact on health. The thought history reveals two things. Humans are in relationships for the sake of love. And relationships are of primary importance because here is where love is exercised, because love is the power of life. So Dr. Müller from Germany had 3 patients in one day with sudden ringing in the ears, which started one day before a breakup of a girlfriend or boyfriend. And on all three patients had the thought of loss. So they all had the same thought of loss, which the body reflected perfectly. Yes, the body reflects our thoughts. Now, how can this be explained? How can this mind-body connection be explained? Well, what do we have in our minds? What do we have? What do we do there? Thoughts, yes. Thoughts about what? We primarily think about relationships, truth in relationships, and righteousness in relationships. And since relationships are of highest importance to humans, these relationships are primary in our thoughts. But why are your relationships not working? And why and how are these relationships impacting your health physically? Where in the law that explains if we have a bad thought, we get sick? Where is it? This is what Dr. Müller thought when he saw this time and time again in his patients, not just those 3, but many, many patients. He found when he took a physical history and a life history that disease always correlated with loss in a person's life. And he thought to himself, if the thought of loss causes dysfunction, now the body was made to function perfectly. If something causes it to dysfunction, can that be a good thing? So we know alcohol's bad because it causes dysfunction in the body. And if thoughts cause dysfunction in the mind and the body, the thought of loss, can the thought of loss be a good thought? If this thought destroys us, then it must be a bad thought. But what makes it a bad thought? And what makes it destroy us? The universal law of life gives the answers to all these questions. This is the law of all things. Everything is made to function as a channel. Everything must have an entrance and an exit. God's law governs the activity at the entrance and at the exit. Now, I'm thinking we're at the right slide here. Yep. Oh, no, we're not. Okay. Sorry, a little bit behind. So there's the history and a timetable. And here we have now the channel. And just look at the entrance and the exit. The entrance is for the taking, because everything and everyone needs to take power from outside to live and to function. The exit is for giving to others. It gives outside of itself in order to function and experience the greatest joy and pleasure. 2 points are very important. All channels must be open, and all channels must be totally selfless. So they have to operate in that direction. Take at the entrance and give at the exit. In order for channels to work in a circuit, all channels belong to God and are accountable to God. We must, as channels, give account to God for how we care for the spirit channel and the body channel. We must keep both channels open at all times. Neither spirit channel nor body channel owns anything, remembering that the spirit and the body work together as one, nor keeps anything, nor does anything for itself. Every channel takes from God and returns to God. God must be the beginning, the middle, and the ending of everything. Since everything works in a circuit, and the circuit starts from God, then everything came from God, lives through God, and returns to God. Acts 17:28, for in him we live and move and have our being. Romans 11:26, for of him and through him and to him are all things, to whom be the glory forever. Amen. This is God's law. It is how all things should function. The mind channel must work like this. The body channel must work like this. Just one blockage affects the whole circuit, leading to disease. If the channel cannot pass on love to the next channel, then it is blocked and can no longer take love. You can see the whole system falls down if there's one blockage in any place. This is the basis of understanding the mechanism involved in the mind-body connection, which is the connection between our thoughts and disease. The incapacity to love or to have loving thoughts to the unlovable person results in a blocked channel. Thoughts are located in the spirit. When the spirit channel is blocked, then the spirit becomes incapable to give to the body healthy messages to pass on to the body, and so the body gets sick. For example, someone wrongs you, you get angry, you want revenge, which is like murder. You cannot love the wrongdoer. This incapacity to love takes place in the heart unconsciously. This motivation to stop the flow of loving thoughts happens unconsciously, but the channel becomes blocked by you. And everyone does this. Everyone blocks their channels with no awareness that they have stopped the function and are destroying their lives. A closed channel always results when your source, the person you trusted, disappoints you. Unconsciously, you stop giving love. Now, we think that we get hurt because we love so much, but the opposite is true. Our heart deceives us. If your source never disappoints you, your channel is always open. When your source is never self-seeking, your channel is always open. When your source never stops loving you fully, your channel is always open. Unconsciously, you freely love others, even when others wrong you. If they are not your source, you can love independently. What a wonderful thought, right? People can do anything to you and love still flows out from you. We have only one example of a person who could do that. And if you think of the extreme abuse that Jesus took, it only drew more love from him. Wouldn't that be wonderful to be like that? And this is God's goal for each one of us, that we would love as he loves. Both opening and closing the channels happen unconsciously. So how can you become aware whether your channel is open or closed? Well, if you love the lovable person, it reveals nothing to you. It doesn't show you your heart, because it's easy to love the lovable, isn't it? When people are nice to us, don't we feel like being nice back? It's because they're our source and we give what they take. So that doesn't show us anything. We can see nice things coming out, but it doesn't tell us whether our source is right, whether we're deceived or not deceived. But if you love the wrongdoer, this reveals that your heart is bound to God. And God never disappoints, because he is never self-seeking and never stops loving me. So, we're living in the last days of this earth's history. And this is who God is calling us to be, to reflect his character and to show his love to the unlovable. And that is why the 144,000 go through the time of trouble such as never was. That is to reveal the wonderful character of God, to show who is the true God, the real God, the Creator God, who is only full of love for us. However, in deception, when we think that we are God, we deceive ourselves. We believe that we own everything that we have, and that we must keep, and we must control all things. And I'm sure we're all aware of this in ourselves, because our self gets provoked on the daily, doesn't it? When somebody messes with your stuff, or is just being really irritating, or just not behaving well. However, we are not aware consciously that we believe that we are God when we're doing this. But we're not aware that we must give in order to live. You didn't know that giving is for your sake. But as long as you cannot love the one person who disappointed you, you will remain a closed channel. No medication, no lifestyle will ever work to free you to love. And you will always suffer and will always destroy yourself. The incapacity to love the one who wronged you will destroy you. But loving people in deception is not really true love. Only true love from God fulfills the law and opens the channel. So how can I know the difference between true love from God versus fake love in deceitfulness? True love is unselfish. Fake love is selfish. It is egoism. Let's look at the difference. True love comes from God. True love has maximum interest for others. It gives 100% freedom to do wrong, because they can never disappoint you, because they are at the giving side. True love never forces the good and continues to bless, and I can't read that word, and relate with the wrongdoer. So true love doesn't cut itself off from someone because they did wrong. But egoism on the fake love gives from self. It has maximum interest, but not for the other, but in the other, for yourself. It will not give freedom to do wrong, but instead will force, dominate, condition, and force the good. And if the wrongdoer cannot be forced to do good, fake love will become indifferent, detached, and put boundaries on and break the relationship. The exercise of true love always opens the channel because it takes from God, the infinite source, to give God's love to others. This gives the brain good electrical power, which then goes into the body and results in health. But the exercise of egoism or fake love closes the channel because it gives from himself to people to take from the same people. This gives bad electrical power, zero functional power to the brain, which then gives on to the body and results in sickness. If you like the idea to live as a child of God with the true identity, here are some key points to remember. God is who you need at your entrance, because in the only true source of love whom you can take from, because he is. If you love to give to others, then you will love to take from God, just like eating bread or drinking water. But if, on the other hand, you don't love to give, then your subconscious heart will not take from God. And in fact, if you don't take from God, then you cannot love to give, because you will only give what you have taken. Always have humans, people at the exit, to give from God's love, not your love. If you think you must give from your own love, it will be selfish love. You will give your love to get something in return. And remember when Dr. Mueller found that this thought of loss was wrong? Well, that is because people think that we give from ourselves. We think love is our own creation. We think that we are a source of love, that we have invested our time and ourselves into the other person, and they have squandered what we have given. But that is a wrong thought, because we belong to God. Nothing we are and nothing we have is our own. We have nothing ever to lose. The loss is always to the owner. Now, I don't know how many people have got a car out there, but if somebody comes and takes a big hammer and smashes that car, who is the loss to? To the car or to you? Yeah. So that thought of loss, why it is wrong, is because when we believe we've lost something, we're not recognizing that the loss is to God, that we belong to God, that our time is actually his time, that our resources are actually his resources, and we are merely stewards of them. And we want to be the good and faithful servant, a steward who is pronounced to have done well, don't we? So what you take subconsciously, you will give. Serve God because you want to be one with God's love. If you like being like Jesus, which is selfless, you will subconsciously take from God and give it away without any conditions. If you stay in deception, however, believing that you are God, you will unconsciously think you are all self-sufficient, like a well that never runs dry and not merely a channel. You then, if you are a channel, but acting and believing subconsciously that you are God, you will not make God your source. Do you not tremble at the thought of staying disconnected from the only true source? In deception, you will unconsciously reverse the order of the law. You will start by giving from your empty self to people, and then you will quickly move the same people that you gave to. You will move them to the taking side, and you will expect to take from the same people. All this you will do unconsciously and block your channel and destroy yourself. Because, of course, you cannot take and give in the same place. Remember, we looked at the law of cause and effect. Cause is always at the entrance to the channel. So it's a deception that we can take and give in the same place. So in other words, you start backwards. You start at the exit by giving, and from there you switch your attention to the entrance. And there, where God is supposed to be, you remove God and place the same people that you gave at the entrance. It is a give and take, and a give and take, and a give and take between two people. However, I'm just having trouble reading the words, but can two trees attach themselves to each other? The two trees are off the ground, but they are attached in a give and take cycle. Sorry, I'm not understanding that. Can they live from each other? No, it is ridiculous, but this is what we are doing unconsciously. But if we look at the picture there, we can see that when we give to take, we are deceived because we are thinking that we're giving from ourselves. But what we're actually doing is we are taking first from that person, and we are giving back to that person what we take. And we can see that in our interactions with people. As I mentioned before, when somebody's lovely to you, well, you just feel like being lovely back. If they're mean and nasty to you, well, you either want to be mean and nasty back, or you're going to suppress that and say nothing, bite your tongue, but you feel it in your heart, you feel disappointed, you feel hurt. So the reaction is still there. You're still giving, but you're just hiding it, and you'll cut yourself off from them. So this is an illusion, an impossibility that we can give from ourselves. Our channel is blocked. True unselfish love is the only love that freely flows. Selfish egoism love will always block the channel. When you give first, it implies you have not taken yet. So you are not really giving, you are pretending. Giving, hoping that the others will give back. This is all an illusion. It does not work. Salvation by works also starts by giving first from yourself. For example, you give to God your service by serving in church, praying, feeding the homeless, giving seminars. You give all these good works to God in order to get God to bless you. You build up a good credit with God. My mum always tells me, if you do good, God will bless you. So you give God to get salvation. You give to God. I give obedience, not because I desire to be one with God, but because I want to go to heaven. It all comes from the belief that I can produce from myself obedience, or from myself righteousness. I, because I am God, can produce righteousness. But if I can produce anything, why do I then have needs? Why do I need anyone? Why do I need to please God? It's total confusion and deception. And this is the cause of the confusion, is that we are deceived. We only have one problem, and that problem is self-deception. I think I can produce. I think I can create from myself. I believe I am God. And the mechanism of deception leads to sickness and conflict, because as gods, you have no God to depend on. You depend on mum, dad, spouse, children, and you cannot help wanting something from others. You cannot stop trying to receive. The result, you will always become disappointed. You get what you don't want. You don't get what you do want. You take disharmony and you give disharmony, and disease is the result. This is the deception that we need to recognize. Recognize that we cannot keep God's law. Recognize I cannot stop trying to receive. Recognize I am deceived. Recognize that I am really a channel, not a source. Give up the idea that in your heart you are God, in your subconscious. Now, no one ever proclaims himself as God unless they're a mad person. But in our hearts, we're like a mad person. We are completely deceived. And we have to consciously now give up this idea. Make a conscious choice to give up this idea. Give up the idea of getting happiness from humans, because a child of God by taking the life, and become a child of God by taking the life of Jesus. And of course, this is the only way we can give up this idea. This is the only way we have a choice, is because we have a supernatural choice given by Jesus. The solution comes at the cross. So what does going to the cross mean? The cross is a symbol of suffering. The cross is a symbol of death. It is a symbol. It's a physical symbol for a spiritual reality. Coming to the cross means to willingly, by your own conscious choice, come and give up your treasures. Give up anything that has given you life, not real life. Because really what we're taking is death in the guise of life. It's a deception. Give up anything, any person, any ambition, any identity, any achievement, any reputation, which has been what drives you on. Anything you live for, anything that gives you a reason and a purpose for living, that has been your life. Is it your children or your ambition for your children? Is it your mum, your family? Are they your life? Is it your spouse or your ambition for your spouse? Is it your ambition for a loving spouse? Or is it your ambition for a career? Is it your possession? Are these your life? Is it a certain identity? I am God. I will be whatever. I have been a perfect or a good mother, father, son, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, teacher, boss, etc., etc. Is it a certain reputation or sense of justice? Are these your life? What is it that has given your life purpose and meaning? What is your treasure? The cross is the place of self-denial. Your conscious mind has heard Jesus is the pearl of great price, and you understand your condition of slavery from birth. You understand the only way things function is by taking from God to give to others. But taking from others, taking from achievements, ambitions, from anything other than God, have been your life. You have lived from them. You do want to have Jesus, the pearl of great price. He says, I can be your life. You can live from me. But your subconscious heart will never believe it, cannot believe it, without its treasures. Your heart will never be able to give them up. Okay, so your subconscious heart can never live without its treasures. It will never be able to give them up. They have been your life. Your heart is in darkness. Your heart is in darkness, totally deceived. It will never give up its treasure. You need to recognize consciously that the light is in Jesus, and a new mind that lives as a child of God. It's only by taking by faith this consciously, this divine choice to exchange your earthly treasure, exchange that which has given you life until now. Give up your dependency on them and take the life of Jesus in exchange. This is self-denial. This is suffering, and this will bring death. This is the cross. This will bring death of the old life, the man of sin, that which destroys us. Jesus said, whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself and take up the cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. Mark 8:35. But whosoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel's, the same shall save it. The cross is not easy. Denying yourself goes against every fibre of your being, because it goes against your treasures. But these treasures that have been and are your life, if you save these, if you cling to them, thinking they are your life, they will be the very cause of losing your life. Self-denial, dying, involves deep agonizing, suffering, but joy will come in the morning when you rise in the new life. It's not easy, but it's the only way. And knowledge of truth, of how things work, will be what keeps you in this narrow path. Now there's another one. That's the final. Okay, that's the final. And so how do we take this new life? How do we take this new life? How do we die to self? Can we do it? So when we see the deception, when we see that there is nothing good in ourselves, that there is no way out by ourselves, that is when we are willing to put our trust in God and believe his words. So when we will only believe the one we trust, we will only trust God when we no longer trust the lie. So the lie has to be exposed. We have to see that we are bound to other people. Whatever they do pushes our buttons. And it's automatic without choice. Did you ever get angry on purpose? No. It's automatic. It's subconscious. It's automatic. We will give what we have taken. So we have to see that we are stuck, and when we see our true selves, when we see the lie, now we're ready to trust the truth and to trust God. But if the trust in the lie is not destroyed, we won't trust God. We will hold on to our earthly treasures. So we have to go through the suffering, the deception, the difficult relationships to see that there's something wrong in ourselves. Then now we're willing to trust God. And now, only now, can we by faith trust his words. And it's by faith we take the new life, because we believe the words of the one who gave them. So when Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and that it's no longer myself that lives, but that we live the life of the risen Saviour, we will now believe that. But we have to come to that point where we are ready to believe, because it is only by faith we can take the new life. All right? Well, thank you so much for listening.
Hello? No. Is that working? Yes? Or is it just my volume? Doesn't seem like it's working. Green light's on.
Yes.
Oh, good. There we go. Just also, Louise, you asked, you can't. Was it that what you said? Okay. If I just come back to, I picked up, it was more like what Margaret's saying is practically, how do we do that? We got all the information, and now how do we do that? And what I've found is that when something is coming out of me that I know is deception, I have a quick little testimony. I woke up one morning about 3 months ago, March. My whole face was covered in pustules. I thought I had something like chicken pox or smallpox. Without a lie, it was that. And with the law of life, first of all, as I say, in the lie, I thought I had chicken pox, just had caught a virus. And then quickly the Holy Spirit prompted me to say, deception. So I was able to immediately then pick up on the law of life and ask God, please reveal to me what the lie is in my heart. What is it? And so that's how I now deal with anything when I'm sick, is ask God. And he revealed to me it's control. You still want to be in control. And control comes out of anxiety, and I know that came through from being connected to my mother, who was very anxious to keep her children safe. And so it gets passed down that way. But just coming back to you, is how do we do it, is when we recognise that there's something coming out of us, either a sickness or, as Margaret said, something's not working with a relationship, then we know that that's when we go to God. And that's the love of God. He will show us. He will tell us. He will lead us to what's going on in our thoughts and what we believe in. So we're going to have a break now, refreshment break, 10 minutes. There's refreshments in the foyer for you. Then we'll come back and then we'll do Q&A. Okay, so I'll bring the question box up for Margaret. There's some questions in there, but if you've got any more questions, we'll open the floor up when you come back. All right? Okay. See you back in 10 minutes.